multiple calibers, multiple deer, and a father-son adventure, all in this video. Gavin Gee here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm here with my hunting correspondent, Guy Miner. Thank you for coming onto the channel again.
Of course, of course. Get a chance to talk about a couple of my favorite rifles and a really good adventure.
Yes, fresh success. Now, tell me about the hunt.
Yeah, you know, it was just last week.
Yep.
And I was hunting here in Washington, up in Okanogan County. And,
Beautiful place.
Oh, incredible. Just, I love it up there. Right next to Canada.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So my son and I hunt deer together pretty much every year, and have for 18 years since his first hunt when he was a little boy still.
I gotta say, that is awesome.
Thank you.
Regularly scheduled adventure time with Dad. Regularly scheduled walking in the woods quietly time with Dad. I cannot think of a better way to just connect on a regular basis.
It's good stuff. We put our lives on hold for a week or so and go hunt. And it is good stuff. This time we decided to treat ourselves, and instead of John and Guy wandering around out there looking for, I think there's a mule deer over there.
Right.
We decided, you know what, we're going to hedge our bets and see if we can both get a deer this year, because usually one or the other of us gets one.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year we decided to hire a guide.
Now why a guided hunt?
The advantages of a guided hunt are many. The only real disadvantage is it costs money.
Okay.
And other than that, it can be a very, very good experience if you've got a good guide.
Now, are we talking about hundreds of dollars each or thousands of dollars each?
We're talking thousands of dollars each.
So this is a big investment.
It is, you know, and I had to ask my son, you know, it's like, can you do this? Are you comfortable doing this? And he kind of went gulp, and I could see his wallet wincing. And he said, yeah, okay, we can do this.
Nice.
He was looking forward to it, and so we made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantages of guided hunt, you've got somebody out there who knows the land really well, knows the deer's habits, where they're going to be, when they're going to be there. You've got access. To me, a really important thing is you've got all this private land that you've got access to, so it's not crowded with a whole bunch of hunters. There's very few hunters on it.
Isn't that crazy? You get to October 16th or whatever the date is that particular year, you drive up the gravel roads and it's like you see just orange everywhere. People on the side of the road everywhere in their trucks. And you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing here? You know, it wasn't like this 10 years ago. It wasn't like this 20 years ago. You didn't see anyone for miles. And then that's not fun.
No, it's not. It's
You
not.
know?
And there's ways on public land of getting away from people. But I've even done the high hunt here in Washington in September, and backpack in, and guess what? There's people. You know, you're 8 miles from the trailhead, and all of a sudden in comes one of the outfitters with a horse pack string, and there's people.
Where we go to hunt, I've been invited to a 100-year family tradition.
Wow.
It's more of a camp out now because the hunting actually isn't very good with the season and whatnot. But we encounter a whole bunch of people from the west side that are in maybe Priuses or whatever. They're hunting mushrooms, and it's like they're everywhere. And if they don't like hunters there, you know, and it's like this just does not feel the way it should feel.
No, and so to me, that's one of the big advantages of the guided hunt is access to all that private property that is controlled, trespass controlled, and so the only folks out there typically are your guide and your hunters, and just a couple of hunters and a guide and a whole lot of land, and hopefully some deer.
Yeah.
I was talking about that, and one of the guides up in camp said, and he says, you know, that makes it safer. And I thought,
oh yeah,
I hadn't thought about that, but he was right.
Yeah.
You know, every time you add another guy and another guy and another guy and another guy, and they've all got guns, and you don't even know they're there on public land, yeah, there's some safety issues. And on private property and a controlled, limited number of people, can that still be a problem? Yeah, but not as big a problem.
And it's not random Joe that's out there in the fields. There's a bar to entry, right? People that are serious about what they're doing, they're going to spend some money on it. You're likely to have better people out in the field with you, I would think, you know, rather than just unknown.
Talk about dedication. We had one of the guys in camp drove up from Texas to hunt, to hunt mule deer here in Washington.
That is really cool.
And it's his second time he's done it. Wow, that's impressive.
Now, how about accommodations? That's another nice thing, to not have to worry about your meals at 4:45 in the morning.
It is. You know, yeah, about 4:30 in the morning on this trip. You know, I got up and I head over to basically the chow hall And 4:45 every day, there was breakfast.
That's amazing.
And there were sack lunches to pick up, so you go put them in your pack and take them for the
Nice.
day. Yeah, that was really nice. I think we can get more into that, but yeah.
All right, you might have sold me. I might have to do a guided hunt. Okay. Next, let's talk about preparations. So getting ready for a hunting trip is more than just getting ready for a camping trip, right?
It is.
It's that and more, right?
Yeah, you got to put a lot of thought into it, and well, you don't have to, because people go up there half baked all the time. But you know, especially when you've got that guided hunt, you've got money on the line.
Oh yeah.
You don't just have your time and your effort, but now you've got cash riding on it, and that makes me even a little more careful about what all I'm thinking and how much prep I'm doing ahead of time. It's not a casual thing anymore. So I try to get myself ready, my gear ready, my firearms ready, my ammunition ready, all that. And you know, so starting with is me.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm 65 now, and I've put on a few pounds, so I like to go walk a lot, because when you're mule deer hunting, you're out there in some big country, and it may be a long way to from where you can park your truck to where you're going to go up and do some glassing. And so I do a lot of hiking, and a lot of it in the hills.
Nice.
And I do that year round, basically.
That's the fountain of youth.
With the hunting as a goal, it inspires me to keep going. Besides, I like to hike.
Yeah.
So
I've had that with actually off-road motorcycling.
yes.
As a goal for physical conditioning, because that's some of the most demanding stuff that I've done, and I always enjoyed that. Even if the trip was 6 months out, you know, it's that goal. It's keeping that in focus and having a purpose to physical conditioning. Love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. So got myself in decent shape. Had that down, and that was pretty good. And then the other gear that you want to take, I'm not that big of a gear guy. I like to, sorry, Gavin Gear. I'm not that big of a gear guy.
I don't have a lot of gear or guns or anything, so I'm with you.
You don't have a lot of guns.
I'm very minimalist, yes.
Yeah. And I like to keep my hunting gear simple.
Yeah.
I've got a little backpack. I've got a couple of knives. Bring something to, you know, basically a body bag for the deer in case you actually get one, which is kind of cool. Optics are incredibly important. I use a real nice pair of Zeiss 10-power binos. That's what I use as my primary spotting thing. The guide in this case had a Maven spotting scope that was awesome.
Nice.
We used that, and he was finding deer way out there with that.
That's really cool.
It was nice to see that. And I got a chance to look through it a few times, and he wouldn't give it to me. Weird. But I took a look through it, and it was good. The optics are really important. Laser rangefinder, because you may have that 200, 300, 400-yard shot opportunity. Some of the guys up there took some longer shots and brought down their deer, but they had more specialized rifles and gear than I did.
What's the first question someone's going to ask? Oh, I took a deer. What range was it? Right? And if you know exactly what range it was at, it makes for better archival storytelling and just general information.
It's always an interesting question.
Yeah, and how did the bullet do? Oh, at what distance? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of lasering everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to know how far I'm shooting.
And you can always laser after the fact too, right? It was right by that tree. I was right here. Oh yeah, it was a 250-yard shot.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't have time to do a lot of lasering before the animal's going to leave.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, back to prep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the rifles.
Got myself in good shape. Got my gear in good shape.
Yep.
The rifles. These rifles are both pretty special to me. This one is a 6mm Remington 700 BDL. I got it in 1974, and that was a couple of years ago.
I was around, barely.
Okay. So you know, it was nearly 50 years ago that
it was a high school graduation.
It was a high school graduation present and birthday present all rolled into one, and I mostly used it for varmint shooting when I was younger. It's a great dual-purpose cartridge, that 6mm Remington, so I did a lot of varmint shooting with it, and then knowing it was fully capable of taking deer as well. About 18 years ago, my youngest son wanted to start, he'd been tagging along with me hunting when he was a little guy, and as he was 12 years old, it was time for him to go real hunting with a real rifle. I put it in a smaller cut-off stock, a little shorter stock.
Yep.
He hated my old 1974 scope, so I had to upgrade. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
So I had to upgrade. I put a 3.5 to 10 loophole on there.
Yep.
And he took his first deer with it at at least 270 yards. I've got it written down somewhere. I think it was closer to 280.
Very cool.
One shot, yeah, drop, done.
And that's the same John that was on this hunt, huh?
On this hunt, yep.
Very nice.
18 years later, and so this gun it's as Remington built it, except that I refinished the stock once about 20 years ago. And other than that, it's just the way Remington built it. I haven't tuned the trigger, I haven't bedded it, nothing. And the hand load hadn't changed for a long time. Built it around that 95 grain Nosler ballistic tip, which is a great deer bullet. Couldn't get my good old powder reloader 22, so I kind of scratched my head. Ramshot Hunter, holy cow, 3,100 plus feet per second.
Wow.
3/4 inch groups at 100 yards, which for a 50-year-old rifle on its original barrel is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the rifling starts in this thing. I think it's moved up here a ways.
We'll have to get the Tesla bore scope out.
Yeah, we'll see. That could be an interesting story.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, it shoots great. Light recoil, accurate. Zeroed it in about 200 yards, and that's where we went with it.
And here we have a frequent flyer.
We do. We do. I picked up that 30-06 Remington 700 CDL probably 10, 12 years ago, I'm guessing. I honestly don't remember exactly when. I've got it topped with a Leupold 6-power, just a straight 6-power scope, which is good and bad. I had a little disadvantage this time because we had some stuff out there a long way.
Sure, yeah.
Local gunsmith Mitch Rowland did some work on it for me. He put a Timney trigger in, he pillar bedded it, free floated it, and you know, it's not super accurate, but it shoots well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I can always count on under an inch with it at 100 yards. And this time, I had my own favorite load all set up, and Gavin says, "Guy, here's some burgers. Why don't you try those?" And I go,
180 Elite Hunter.
"Sure, I've got 3 days before the hunt. I'll do that." And I thought, well, you know, a 180 grain bullet and a 30-06 go together really well. I had some of this Ramshot Hunter powder on hand because I had loaded 180s for that rifle before. Different 180s, but you know, hey, 180, 180.
Yeah.
And 58 grains of that, very nice, easy load. I just loaded them to 3.4 inches, made sure they fit in the chamber, they cycled and everything, eject, and it was great. So took it to the range, sighted it in, 2,730 feet per second.
Nice.
0.84 inch 3-shot group at 100. I think that could be tuned a lot better, but I just said, I've got to get this thing sighted in and see if it shoots and then take it hunting in like 3 days.
Right.
So I was like, okay, got it. Zeroed it in, and I'm real happy with the performance.
And for the ammunition, all American aid?
You bet. You bet. I like this thing.
Yeah.
And I used it to load the 30-06 ammo just before the trip, and I'd loaded it to make the 6mm ammo a couple weeks earlier. Works great. It's smooth, easy to use.
And you had a T-Mag before that, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Lyman's
you know.
sort of the predecessor. I like how they put 8 stations on it.
It's nice, and I've had fun. I thought that, well, okay, that's a lot. You know, I got 2 here and 2 here, and you know, just start filling them up. And like my 4570, I use 4 different die stations on that. But this did it, you know, for my 30-06 load. This was just peachy.
Very cool. Okay, so the question for you all is: do you prefer the BDL or do you prefer the CDL? Now, my personal favorite, I like the looks of the BDL just a bit better. And this one specifically because it's got the darker wood finish. And then I just like the contour of the buttstock a little bit better.
And that little cheek piece in Monte Carlo there, yeah.
Now, which one do you like better?
I like them both. You know, this is a present from Dad.
Yeah.
And it's now on the, you know, he's shot it, I've shot it, John hunts with it now. It's like, this thing's got quite a history in our family. So this is an old favorite, and this is a newer favorite.
Yep.
Because it has taken all sorts of stuff.
Sure. Okay. So please vote. Make your voice heard. On that note, let's transition to talking about the hunt.
So 4:45 the next morning, we're in there eating chow, and it's good stuff. And grab your sack lunch, pack up, go hop in the truck. It's, you know, it's still dark, obviously, and we spent the day looking for mule deer bucks, and we found some. They were 860 yards away in an orchard that we couldn't hunt.
Well, there you go.
And
off limits.
they never showed up, and we went looking for them. There were a couple of miles consumed that way, going and looking for them and spotting and all this. And we saw some does up close and some little bitty bucks up close, but nothing much. Long, hard day. Next day, rain. It rained all night. The dirt roads out there turned to muck and mud. We really used the four-wheel drive in his truck that day. We didn't hike as much that day because it was thoroughly miserable hiking. You had that mud that just stacks up on the bottom of your boots, and suddenly your feet are 10 pounds heavier. So we didn't do a lot of hiking that day, but we did a lot of hours glassing, sitting out there in the rain. That's so fun, just sitting there in the rain glassing. Not. Third day, I thought we were doing a marathon. We hiked 11 miles off trail, off road, up and down, up and down.
That's where your personal prep really.
It did, because I felt pretty good. I mean, I was tired, but I felt pretty good. And when Jared is moving from, say, the truck to his glassing point, he's not strolling. And so I'm like, okay then, you know, I can keep up with this guy who's 30 years younger than me, sure. And you know, and John's looking at me, what's the matter with you, old man? So yeah, did that, and towards the end of that day, John got on a buck. John and I were on foot, and he spotted the buck, and we closed in, and he got himself a good shot at it and hit it. Buck moved a little bit, didn't go down right away, and so John hammered it again right in the shoulder, instant drop and dead.
Nice. So where was the first shot?
First shot was in the lung area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was...
Yeah, it was going to kill him.
Sure.
But he was getting kind of close to the edge of that ridge, and we weren't sure where he was going to go if he went over, so John shot him again, and that was the end of that. Now, it was only a 2x3. It wasn't a particularly big buck, but it was a buck.
Yeah,
and that's what we were in there for, is to get some legal meat and bring it home. Got his back to camp, and we were we went out and tried to get me a deer later that day, but it just never happened. We'd see one, and then it'd be gone. Jared and I tried to stalk one that was a quarter of a mile away, and we got right to where it had been, but it wasn't there anymore. And it was too far away for me to shoot with a 6-power scope and a load that I had only practiced out to 300 yards with.
But think of how much weight savings you had with that 6-power scope.
Oh,
all that hiking.
It's a great scope. Yeah, it was just a little short for doing that.
Not enough reach, huh?
500 yardish shot. It was like I didn't feel all that confident with it.
Right.
So, at any rate, nothing against the scope. It just wasn't quite up to that. I never intended that rifle to be a 500-yard rifle.
Sure.
So, fair enough. Final day.
Yep.
We know where that big buck is that we'd seen for 2 days prior to that. We go back to the same area, set up on a hillside, and there he is, and he's got 2 other bucks with him. And the big guy is a 4x3, very handsome deer, big, thick antlers, and they're dark with ivory tips on them.
Cool.
Oh, I know, I wanted that buck.
Yeah.
But he knew I only had a 6-power scope, and I wasn't going to shoot him at a quarter of a mile. So he was safe. And one of his buddies, a 2x2, pretty stout one, but a 2x2, and the big guy started drifting right to left, and they went behind a little ridge, and there was a nice 3-point there, big fat buck, and I thought, you know what, he looks pretty good. And he was closer to us. He was about 350 yards, and he's moving the same direction they are. He made a bad tactical error. He stayed on my side of the ridge.
Yep.
And as he's getting towards the end of the ridge, and he's still around 350 yards away, another tactical error. He stopped. And I was ready.
Yep.
I had the rifle on a tripod, and everything was nice and steady.
That was a death grip, was it?
It was. It was.
Yeah.
And it worked great. I had never shot off, never hunted off one of those before.
Cool.
And I was thoroughly. I was so impressed. I bought my own after that.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very steady. I can't shoot prone anymore because of some injuries I've got.
Sure.
But shooting sitting off that thing, I was as steady as I've ever been.
Well, in the tall grass, that's where I'm going to go for varmint hunting, mostly to tripod shooting. So this year we can maybe do that together. Get our skills honed up. And,
it gets you up off the ground.
Yep.
You can shoot over grass, brush, fallen logs, all that stuff that's in the way when you go prone.
Yep.
So the tripod made a huge difference to me. And Jared was watching through his scope, and he said that he could see the arc of the bullet and hit high shoulder. Instant drop. Mule deer's
350?
down.
Was it still at 350?
350 yards.
Gotcha.
Yep, instant drop. Sadly, as I've seen happen before with myself and with other hunters, that high shoulder shot usually drops them like lightning. Doesn't always kill.
Not close enough to the core vital area.
It's a little high for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you miss the lungs, you're a little above it or something. And so you've got this drop, and so I've got my mule deer is hurt. He's down and he's hurt, and so I get over there quickly and finish him.
Nice.
Yeah, you don't want him to suffer.
No, absolutely not.
And he was a good one. Yeah.
Nice.
I've got some decent pictures of him, and
Yeah.
the old trophy, the old guy grinning, and it's like, yeah, I got a bigger buck than my son. Yeah. Sorry, John.
You gotta love the inherent competition. I mean, that's not what it's all about, but
it's there.
That thrill of seeing that deer and him staying on that same side of the ridgeline, and you're just waiting for that right moment.
Yeah.
It's really fulfilling. And when you pulled the trigger, what was your state of mind? Were you just
very calm?
Very calm.
Yeah. I usually get that way behind the trigger. So I got rattled once. But that's another story. But yeah. At any rate, yeah, it was a very calm, good experience, and it's very satisfying to see your game animal just drop.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like, okay, cool.
What a great experience for father and son too.
Yeah.
That's
John
awesome.
and I, we hunted together, and that was nice. I don't think we'd spent 5 days together with nobody else from the family around. I don't know, probably since the last hunting season.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's talk about thoughts for next time. Now that you had a successful hunt, 2x success, you know, 100% tag fill, if you will. What are you thinking of towards the next season? Say the fall big game season.
Well, I'm going to lose 10 more pounds.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good start. Lean out a little bit. It's that much less to carry.
Yep.
Going to do a do-it-yourself hunt next year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a hold of Jared, and I said, well, it was a great hunt, but I think I want to go back to do-it-yourself one next time. I've got my spot kind of semi-picked out already.
Nice.
And place I've been before and been successful before. And yeah, I'll just set up my own little hunting camp.
Nice.
So I don't know who's going to have breakfast ready at 4:45 though.
That's the tough thing. You might have oatmeal packets.
That's the tough thing. And I don't know which one of the rifles will get picked out of the safe next year.
A lot could happen in the next year.
A lot could happen. I know this guy.
Yeah.
And he builds things.
That's handy. And maybe that same person will coerce you into a higher power tactical style scope even.
I don't think that's going to take much arm twisting.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Nice.
already looking at a couple of scopes I had at home that have been kind of underemployed.
Nice.
And thinking that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
Or I'd have that big, beautiful 4x3.
Yeah.
If I'd had more scope and more confidence in that.
Very cool.
Oh, well.
Well, that was a great year of hunting. Great story. Thank you for sharing with us. Here's what we want to know. Again, we want you to vote on the BDL versus the CDL, but also, did you have an outstanding hunt? Did you have an outstanding hunt with one of your kids? Please drop a comment. Tell us what you did, your success, what you were shooting. Tell us all about it. That was fun.
It was.
Thank you for coming back, Guy.
Thanks for letting me talk about my hunt.
Absolutely. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, make your voice heard. If you have something to say, please drop a comment. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications because you're not going to want to miss the awesome content that is coming up. And finally, flex your reloading pride. You could look great in one of these t-shirts. We've got multiple designs at the Ultimate Reloader store. I'll see you later because I'm off to go shooting.